Hello and welcome to Muse for You. This is John, your Adobe Muse instructor, and in this video we're going to be going over how to add images to your Adobe Muse website. So I'm going to go ahead and open Adobe Muse. I'm going to go to File, New Site, click OK, and we're going to open the home page. And the first thing I'm going to do is just fill in the browser fill. So I'm going to select the eyedropper tool and kind of turn it that blue color. Now what I want to do is add an image to this website. There are a few different ways you can add images. One way you can do it is, let's just go here and go to Skillshare. One way is to just simply drag the image into your website. So for instance, I'm going to drag in this PNG here of my logo text, and there it is. And if I make this window a little bit bigger, I can actually resize this image. Now, for those of you who have worked with Illustrator or any other image editing tool, you'll probably be used to holding down Shift and resizing so that it retains the proportions. Now, Muse works the exact opposite when you're importing an image. You actually don't need to hold down Shift, and Muse retains the proportions for you. You don't have to hold Shift or anything, just drag it from the corner and it'll resize your image proportionally, and it'll keep the proportions the same. It'll just make it smaller or bigger. One thing I don't quite recommend is making an image bigger. In my experience, sometimes you lose quality in the image when you resize it from small to big. So I would always just insert the image big and then make it smaller. That's the case when you import an image. At least that's what I've found. There's another way that I use more often than this. I rarely use just kind of importing the image from my folder. And I even think, let's see, object. Yeah, so yeah, never mind that. But yeah, so I rarely use kind of dragging the image into Muse like that. The method that I like to use is creating a rectangle, and this method gives me a lot more flexibility. I just create a rectangle. I select the rectangle tool here and create the rectangle, and then I fill this rectangle with the image, and I'll show you how to do that. So first, you go to Object. Oh, sorry, excuse me. You just select the rectangle. You go to Fill right up here. And then here it says image, and you click add image. And then I scroll to the image, I find the folder and I scroll to it. And now I'll pick that same image that I picked last time where I imported it. And there it is. The image is actually inside this rectangle, but we can't see the whole image. And that's because in the fitting, it's set to original size. Under fitting, we have a few options. We can scale to fill, we can scale to fit, we can do original size, we can tile it, tile horizontally, or tile vertically. So I'll show you what each of those look like just so we can see. So I'll scale to fill, and that looks kind of like the same. I can change the position, I'll get to that in a second. I can scale to fit, so now the image actually fits in the rectangle, which is what we want. And we can do original size, that's what it was before, and we can't see the whole image unless we were to make the rectangle bigger, which we can do. And that's why I love working with rectangles. It just gives you a lot of flexibility to work with the image. We can tile it, so that doesn't do much because the image is already too big. If the image was a lot smaller, it would tile multiple times within the rectangle. We can tile horizontally or tile vertically. And that just means, yeah, that it'll, if your image is small enough, it'll just fill the image fill the rectangle with the image multiple times. The one I want to use for this one is scale to fit because I want it to fit inside the rectangle. That way we can see the whole image. And at the same time, what I want it to do is position it in the center, not to the left. So under position here, we can position it to the upper left corner, left, down right corner, bottom right corner, right, top right corner, and top, or in the center. I want it in the center, so I click center, and there it is. You could even click the top and the bottom, and that would center it as well, right, left, But yeah, it's center just to be safe, and because it's the center right there. So I click the center square right there into position, and now we have this nice logo text in the middle, and yeah, and I can even do more things with it. I can make it bigger. See, by making the rectangle bigger, because it's scaled to fit, the image now gets bigger or smaller depending on the size of the rectangle, which is just an awesome way to create websites, because you really have the flexibility of making sure that everything's proportioned to each other by having the flexibility of making the image really small or really big. So again, I highly recommend this method instead of just importing the image into Adobe Muse. Now we have this white here. This image, this logo text, is actually a PNG, so it doesn't have a background. What you're seeing, this white, is the background of the rectangle. And to take that, or to remove that white, what you do is you go to Fill, or you just click on this drop down here next to Fill, and you select None. Yeah, so first you select the rectangle, and then you can change the fill. I selected None. You can make it white, kind of any color you'd like. Kind of just fills that rectangle and keeps the image in there. It's a pretty neat effect, or pretty neat function that lets you really have a lot of flexibility with your images. So I'll go ahead and add another image just for demonstration purposes. I'll create another rectangle. Oh, and one thing, let's go ahead and preview this in the browser just to see what it looks like. So I'm going to hit Command-Shift-E to preview in the browser. And I don't know if you can see it too well on your screen, but there's actually a border around my Muse for You logo text here, and it's a little thin black border. And the reason that is because every time you create a rectangle, it gives it a stroke of 1. And you can even make the stroke bigger. So like if I make it really big, now you can start to see it. And if I preview in the browser, you can definitely see there's a black border around this rectangle and this image here, this logo text. So to take the stroke off, you just click on the down arrow next to the stroke word here, and then you select None. And that's it. So if I preview this in the browser again, there's no stroke, no border, and we just have this nice logo here, logo text with no border. Okay, and so now I'm going to add another image, and we're going to actually add an image. So I'm going to go to Fill, Add Image. So first I created the rectangle by selecting the rectangle tool. I created the rectangle. Now I'm going to fill the rectangle with an image. So Fill, Add Image. I'm going to go here. Let's preview this way. And I'll select this nice cup of strawberries, I think, or those raspberries. I'm not sure. I'm not good with fruits, but I can scale to fit, scale to fill. Scale to fill seems to work really nice here. It's kind of like a nice, maybe this is like a little break in between different sections on my site. It's enough to see the image, but not enough for it to be too intrusive on the website. And I might show you a quick little scroll effect, a neat little scroll effect in this video. But yeah, there we go. I added this image. If I preview this in the browser, we now have this logo text and this nice image here. Now what you'll notice I did with this image is that I dragged it to the left and to the right of this website. And what this means, if you pay close attention to where it has a W and the H, the W now says 100%. When you drag your image to the very left and to the very right of your site, it creates what's called an 100% image. And what that means is that when you resize your browser, the image is always going to be the length or the width of your browser. So if you shrink it or make it bigger, the image is going to stay 100% width. So as we can see here, no matter how much I stretch this site, it stays at 100%. The image might get bigger, just to be able to fit the proportions or the constraints of the browser fill, but you see it stays at 100% width. If I were to take it off 100% width, kind of just put it within these guidelines here, and I preview it, we can now see that it's not really 100% width. All right, so that's a cool feature in Muse. You can create 100% with images that kind of act as, you know, what you might term as responsive, which it responds to the width of the browser. Okay. Now you'll notice I didn't do that with Muse for You because I don't think it makes too big of a difference if I make this 100% width, but we can do that as well with this rectangle here. Now Muse for You is also 100% width. It doesn't really have you know, an interesting effect just because the colors we chose and the fact that this logo text is in the middle. All right, so another way we can make it 100% width, there is a shortcut to do that. So I'm going to make it not 100% width. There's this little button right up here next to the X and the Y. It's called 100% width, and if I just click it, it makes the image 100% width. If I click it again, it's now not 100% width. So right now it's 100% width. So very good. And then if I unclick it and hit Command Shift E, it's now no longer 100% width. So it's a little shortcut. So when you're working with images, you can just click this 100% tool and it'll make your images 100%. Okay, so that's pretty much it for images. And if another thing I'll show you is if you go to the assets panel, right over here to the right, you'll now see that your images are in these asset panels. And one thing I'll show you, so I'm going to take this image, excuse me, yeah, this image that I used, if I can find it. Here, I'll just do this. Or here, I'll rename it to, you know, fruit in a cup. In a cup. So I just renamed this image here. And now what you'll notice in your assets, you get this little question mark. I just renamed it, so anytime you move or rename a file, you'll have to update your assets because the assets are now looking for this image in that folder with this name and it can't find it. So to fix that, you just right click on the image, you click the assets panel, right click on the image and click relink. And then you find fruit in a cup. And there we go. Now it says fruit in a cup, the image is relinked and you don't have that question mark. So this is where you can kind of see all your images and yeah, you can, you know, edit original and things like that. So, and if you're using Retina display images, 2 times will appear here. Yeah, and basically anything you import into your site will appear in the assets panel. Now, I know this video is kind of long, but I'll show you one last thing, one cool little thing before I finish. I'm actually going to make this image kind of a fixed image that scrolls as you scroll the page. So to do that, I click on it, I go to fill, I go to scroll, and then motion, I just set it to 0 and 0. So no motion whatsoever. And I'm just going to add a little bit of scroll space by scrolling this down. And if I hit Command Shift E, oh, and let me make it 100% width. I hit Command Shift E. Now we have this fixed image in the background, and as you scroll, you can see the whole image as you scroll the page. It's a pretty neat effect, and I'm going to go over a whole video on how to do these interesting scroll effects, but I just thought I'd show you in this video just to kind of make it a little more interesting. Yeah, and you don't really have to worry about this little key position here quite yet. All right, so that's it for images. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.